All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is the last day of July 31st. Happy Monday to everyone out there. We have a 10-game MLB slate to jump into today. Like we always do, we're gonna go through each and every game. I'll give you my lean or leans on the games, but as always, my final plays will be in the pinned comment. And speaking of final plays, guys, we're starting to close out July fairly well here. We have a great night last night, going 6-2. In the regular slate, we go 3-1, sweep our money line plays. Nick Madrigal does not come through for us, but then in Sunday Night Baseball, we had a big night. We had the O's money line that cashes. The under, Luis Severino's going to Luis Severino because that one had no chance. But then we had Ryan O'Hearn clutching up for us. We had a half unit on his over 1.5 bases for plus 130 odds, okay? And then we kind of split that unit. We put another half unit on him over 1.5 hits for plus 260 odds. That cashes. We had a big day yesterday going 6-2, and even with those being half unit plays, that 260 is nice to see come through, right? So good day yesterday. We'd had a struggle of the last 5 days or so that is a good way to give us some momentum into closing out July here. Unfortunately, our ride of the day just barely does not come through. We know the rules. We got to drop the womp womp, but Cisco had Justin Verlander over 5.5 strikeouts. He had a good game, got the win. I think it was like whatever, I forget what it was, 200, 250, whatever his career win was. He got the win, but it comes up short on the strikeouts, only with 5 strikeouts. So shout out to Cisco here for the play. I liked it, jumped on board with it, did not come through, finished on the hook there. If you do want to be the ride of the day, all you got to use is hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Drop an absolute banger, a lock of a pick, and I'm picking one person in the comments, jumping on board with you guys, putting my money where your mouth is, and trusting you guys out there and hopping on board with you guys. You get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. And before we do get into today's games, guys, if you want to check out the Fade Me store, it is the brand we've been sinking our teeth into here and really putting in effort to bringing in some great designs. Make sure to go check it out. If you have been winning as of late, make sure to go check out fademe.store. If you followed some of our picks and cashed, it is a great way to support the channel. And I get so excited every time I see an order come through. It's literally like one of my main priorities right now to promote this and push it and bring this into make it something. I really do like the idea of it. If you don't know where it came from, guys, it really started when I first started sinking my teeth into sports betting. My friends, family, commenters on YouTube would be like, those picks stink, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, okay, fade me then, right? And then all of a sudden we'd win, they'd lose, and it became a thing. So if you do want to support the channel, make sure to check out fademe.store. I'll put that link in the pinned comment. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, and let's jump into game number 1 for today. All right, we got Miami taking on the Phillies here. Miami coming off of taking 2 of 3 against Detroit. They get the win yesterday. And Philadelphia losing 2 of 3 against the Pirates here. Right now, Miami plus 101 on the money line. Philly sitting at minus 115 as the away favorites. Total is sitting at 8 runs. I have a couple leans in this game, neither of which are all that strong, but I'll start with this side here. I think that there is some value in Miami for plus 101 just because of the plus money. And I kind of look at these two pitchers pitching fairly similar. You have Edward Cabrera on the mound for Miami and Taijuan Walker on the mound for Philadelphia. Edward Cabrera has a 2 flat ERA in his last 5 starts here, and Taijuan's looking at a 2.6 ERA. But this doesn't come down to the pitching. It comes down to the hitting for me. And you can look at this and say, okay, well, Phillies versus righties on the year, 253, not all that bad. But if you look at it from a closer perspective and just look at it from their last 10 here, they're batting 193 against righties in their last 10. Meanwhile, in that same stretch, Miami's batting 260. So I think there's some value here just from the offensive side here for Miami. And then I'm looking at the over 8 runs as well. In terms of what these two teams have averaged this season, Philly has averaged 4.48 runs for and 4.4 runs against, bringing that out to an 8.88 total of the average of their games. Miami, both their runs for and runs against are both above 4 as well, and their total average here is 8.42. So I'm going to look at a slight over in this one, but again, I am factoring the fact that the Phillies have not batted righties that well as of late, so take that with what you will, but I'm going to lean towards Miami for the value and the over. But like I said, not really sure if either of these become a final play, but I am pretty sure that those are where my leans are going to lie there. All right, next up, we have Washington taking on Milwaukee. And guys, I meant to say this before too. As we approach the trade deadline, make sure to keep an eye on guys that are sitting out or that are rumored to be traded and that type of thing, because it could impact your bets. It could impact the lines. You could get into a trap or a situation where you're like, why is that team underdogs? They should be favored. It could be because, player X is rumored to be traded or blah, blah, blah. So just keep an eye on that and throw that into your thought process and your work process as you research these games yourselves, because that could be a huge factor as to why things are different or look off or that type of thing. So trade deadline, I think it's 6 p.m. tomorrow is the actual time. It is tomorrow. So just keep an eye on that and keep that in the back of your brain as you go through this. But here we have Washington taking on Milwaukee. Washington heavy underdogs at home, which makes total sense. I am liking the Brewers here. I just don't think I could swallow the pill of the price at -195. But they have Corbin Burns on the mound for Milwaukee going up against Jake Irvin. And I'm not trying to slight Jake Irvin, but Milwaukee has the far better pitcher here. In his last 3 starts, Irvin is looking at a .9 ERA, right? So under 1 ERA in his last 3 starts, and he's looking at a .55 whip. The guy has absolutely been dealing, and it's not like he went up against, Joe Schmoes of the offenses. He did go up against Cincinnati, and like I always tell you guys, Milwaukee just owned Cincinnati. 3 of his last 4 starts are against that team, but he also went up against the Phillies here, pitched 6 innings, only a 2-hitter, no earned runs, 1 walk in a 10 strikeout game. So the guy is dealing right now. So I'm going to back the better pitcher in this one. They also have the better bullpen. They are just playing, or they're not even playing. They just are the better team. So yes, it's some heavy price tag in terms of juice to be paying for Milwaukee, but I have to lean in that direction. In terms of the total, we're looking at 9 runs. I slightly lean towards the under because I think it's going to be a one-sided affair, and I'm not going to go out there and truly just trust this Milwaukee offense to drop, 7 runs again. They scored a bunch of runs against Atlanta, but that's kind of that pace of play when you're playing Atlanta, right? You gotta play cat and mouse and catch up to them. I don't think that Milwaukee, when they get out ahead, they're going to drop that many runs. We saw that, in their previous series, right? Like, this was just a high-scoring series. I don't think we need to take too much from that and weigh it too much. So give me the under 9 in this one as well. I think Corbin Burns is going to go out there and do his thing against this Washington team, who in the last 5 games are only batting .234 against righties. All right, next up, you have the Yankees taking on Tampa Bay, and let's not forget Tampa Bay just had a bad loss last night, Sunday Night Baseball. Have to bounce back here and play Tampa Bay, who I'm almost ready to say is getting to being back. They take 2 of 3 against the Astros, and that's a big series for them. They went 8-2 yesterday. They cash for us. And I do think that they're starting to get back here. They have Glass now on the mound today. The team is 2-3 in his last 5 starts, but again, they have not really had a consistent month and a half almost, right? Maybe even longer. But he's got a 1.6 ERA in his last 5 here. I do kind of trust him going into it. He's got a 1.8 in his last 3 as well, so keeping that trend. Going up against Domingo Germán, who has not been pitching all that well. He's got a 2.8 ERA in his last 5, but I wouldn't get swayed by that. His 5th, most recent start, so 5 starts ago, was that perfect game. So this guy, it is really, I guess, misleading to look at that and say, okay, he is actually pitching well, right? 2.8 over his last 5. You look at it from a last 3 perspective, he's got a 6 flat ERA. So do not get hung up on Domingo Germán's numbers. He has not been pitching well. Pretty much, I think he had 1 good start since that perfect game. So playing a team like the Rays that may be getting hot, give me the Rays on the money line here, -130. And then in terms of the total, I like the over as well. I do think that this is going to be a spot in which, the Rays continue to score runs, and hopefully maybe the Yankees can kind of keep up with them to make this a cakewalk to the over. But I really do like Tampa Bay in this spot. Give me Glass now. Give me the team that I do think, is kind of trending in the right direction, getting back to being one of the best teams in baseball, if not the best team like they were just a couple months back, for -130 here on the money line. All right, guys, before we progress with the rest of the slate, I did want to talk to you guys about my favorite sports betting research tool, Outlier. In fact, we'll jump in and give you a little preview of what Outlier offers here. Outlier, an amazing sports betting research tool for player props, parlay building, game picks, anything under the sun here, guys. You can see this is their player prop screen. You can go through and look at what is trending. Say some of these odds are just too juicy for you. -1200, I don't want to see that, right? You can go into the minimum odds, put something a little bit more digestible in there, and it knocks it down. So Matthew Batten here, under 1.5 bases, has hit in 5 straight games, 9 of his last 10. And you can go through and actually click into it and kind of dissect this. Okay, so this is what we're looking at here. In terms of 2023, he's hit the under in 88% of games, 7 of his 8 games. Head-to-head, only, he's hit it in 2 games. That's dating back to last year. Last 20, he's hit it in 18 of his last 20. You can also go over here. Okay, he's going up against Austin Gomber today, a left-handed pitcher. You can find Batten on the list, Matt Batten here. 231 average against left-handed pitchers, batting 375 though, so it's a little bit misleading. He does have, an 0 where he's got no at-bats against Gomber here, but yeah, this would be something that I now see, okay, yes, he's trending in the right direction, but I'm staying away from him. The guy crushes lefties, right? So that is an example of the player prop screen. They have the game screen as well. You can go through and dissect games, just like we were looking at the Rays and Yankees there. You can take a peek at everything that you want to see in terms of pitchers, injuries, insights, which would be trends, which is a really, really cool feature. There's no insights for this one, but if we were to try another game, I'm sure there are insights to some degree. Not always, but they try and find picks just like this, where they have these trending plays. For example, Matt Olson exceeded 1.5 total bases in 6 of his last 7 games at home after a win. You can go and dissect that for plus 110 odds over on FanDuel. Pretty cool. And if you do like a play, you literally can click it. It's going to open up a barcode. You can do it from your phone, or you can click continue in browser, and you don't even have to go and find this yourself. It's going to go into DraftKings and not place it, but put it in your bet slips. And you can go ahead and put $1 million on it without having to touch it and go find it, right? So guys, head over, check out Outlier. I have that link in the description and the pinned comment. 7-day free trial when you do choose to use that link. I love Outlier. I honestly say that this is the best sports betting research tool out there, and it's only getting better. I've used it all. Outlier continues to progress and add features. It is very, very cool. Go check it out, guys. Let's continue with the slate. All right, we have Toronto taking on Baltimore here. Toronto favored at home, minus 140 on the money line. Total sitting at 9 runs. I do like Toronto in this one, so that is going to be my lean. Baltimore with a great win yesterday. Obviously, 9-3 Sunday Night Baseball. Nice dub. Toronto coming off of a loss against the Angels, but they did take 2 of 3 in that series. They took 2 of 3 against the Dodgers, too. This Toronto team playing decent baseball, winning 4 of their last 6 games here. And I think this is a good spot for them going up against Baltimore, with Bassett on the mound here. And, I will say Baltimore's kind of owned Toronto as of late in their last 10 here. Baltimore's won 7 of them this season. Toronto's only taken 1 of the 6 games. So this is sort of a, an ask and a cry for a bounce back spot for Toronto. But I got to trust Chris Bassett here, who's got a 2 flat ERA in his last 5. The team has a 4-1 record when he goes out there and starts. And in terms of what he's looking at on the season, he's got a 3.9 ERA, which is great, but a 2.12 in his last 3, and he's kept the whip down too at 1.18. Going up against Kyle Gibson for the O's, who I wouldn't say has been bad. I really don't want to say that, but he just hasn't been all that good. He's been kind of average in my mind here. Letting runners on base, which has been a struggle. He's got a 1.38 whip in his last 3 here with a 5.19 ERA. But Baltimore's been able to kind of come through. They've won 3 of the last 5 in which he got the start, but they've had to score a bunch of runs. For example, letting 5 runs up against Miami a few starts ago, Baltimore scores 6, right? Through 5 innings, he let up those 5 runs. So you got to keep an eye on him when it comes to just getting himself in sticky situations and having a lot of runs come through. But nonetheless, give me Toronto on the money line. They're batting righties better. Both these pitchers are righties. They've been doing it all season long. And then you look at the last 5 here as well. Toronto batting 270 against righties, and you look it out to the last 10 with a bigger sample size. Baltimore only 192 average against righties, whereas Toronto is at 255. So I do like Toronto's side of this, and I also like the over. Neither one of these bullpens, and I know Baltimore's got such a good bullpen, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but with the injuries and with just the recent events, this bullpen has not been as good as we would like to see, or at least as good as they were. So I am going to lean towards the over in this spot here. I think that over 9 runs is a good spot. I think that, these starters could come out and the bullpens could come in and kind of let up a couple more and change. So give me the over as well, over 9 runs. All right, we have the Braves taking on the Angels. This one's a little tricky because the Braves are such heavy favorites. Minus 225 right now over on DraftKings. I do think that, the Braves, even though they were kind of in a little bit of a rut, and by a rut, I mean they were winning, losing, they didn't really go on a slide like the Rays did or like Texas has done. But I do think that the Braves coming off a sweep against Milwaukee in which they scored 1 million runs shows that they're kind of ready to keep that train going. We've seen that already in this season. They are going up against Griffin Canning today, who, decent pitcher, 2.6 ERA over his last 5 on the season. We're looking at a 4.46, so he's trending in the wrong direction. His last 3 haven't been good either, 5.4 with a 1.65 whip. So I'm going to lean towards Atlanta, but you're going to have to work with the run line here at minus 1.5, which Atlanta has done 3 games in a row and in 6 of their last 10. So I'll lay the minus 111 here on the run line. I think that this is an Atlanta spot, especially with Morton on the mound, who has been pitching some good baseball here in his last 5. Now, this is just because really 2 games in which he kind of was or 3 games, I would say, he was an absolute stud in, right? He had 0 earned runs against Miami. Then he plays Tampa Bay through 6 1/3, had 1 earned run. Then he plays the White Sox and shuts them out through 7 innings. Like, that's swaying his last 5 here, but nonetheless, 1.8 ERA in his last 5, only letting up 1 long ball as well. So I'm going to lean towards Atlanta. Obviously, the offense is cooking, and I'm hoping Morton continues to do what he has been doing. Struggled against Boston a little bit, but that's a red-hot Boston team, at least during that time. So give me Atlanta here on the run line, -1.5. Total sitting at 10 runs. I want to lean towards the under. I don't know if I can get myself there, though, just because Atlanta's been pretty much damn near covering this line themselves. They've actually covered this line 2 out of the last 3 games. 2 games in the Milwaukee series, they had 10 and 11 runs there, and the other one was 8. So I do think that this has a chance to go over. I'm leaning under because I do kind of trust the pitching here, but if you're on the over, do not let me talk you off of that whatsoever. All right, Cincinnati taking on the Cubs here. I will say I don't really have a side on this game. By the way, we don't have an updated total on the graphics, but we do now. It is sitting at 8 runs, which is a little low for me. I'll talk about that in just a sec. But the reason I don't have a side is because both these teams are playing good baseball. You have Andrew Abbott on the mound, who usually you would be like, oh yeah, Marcus Stroman, who's pitching for the Cubs, is the better pitcher. But like, is he, or is Marcus Stroman just kind of an absolute fraud, right? Like, he hasn't been pitching well, whereas you have Andrew Abbott, who has been pitching pretty damn near exceptional. He's got a 0.8 whip over his last 3 with a 0.9 ERA, and it's like, oh, well, that's cool, right? On the season, the dude has a 1.9 ERA and a 0.96 whip. Like, Andrew Abbott is pitching really well, and the Cubs do not hit lefties very well. We saw it yesterday when they went up against Steven Matz. So I do think that the Cubs are playing better baseball than the Reds, but both of these teams trending in the right direction. So originally I wanted to lean Cubs. I don't think I can get myself there. If you're on the Reds, I wouldn't get off the Reds based on anything I'm saying in this spot. What I do like is the over, because meanwhile, you do have a good pitcher starting for the Reds, okay? And you have, I guess you could say, a good pitcher or a big name starting for the Cubs, because I think we might just start calling him Marcus Big Name Stroman, because the dude stinks. You know what I mean? Like, when he doesn't have his control, he's just going to get batted around like I would throwing lefty out there. And by the way, I'm a righty. You know what I mean? So I don't really trust him. But once you get to the bullpens of either one of these teams, I do think that you have a fairly good chance here of scoring some runs and at least getting runners on base. So I'm going to lean towards the over, because I think late game we score a couple runs here that definitely help this out. In the last 3, the bullpen of the Reds here, looking at a 6.7 ERA with a 1.83 whip. It doesn't get much better for the Cubs, a 4.2 ERA with a 1.3 whip. So I'm hoping a lot of guys get on base, a couple dink and dunk baseball type plays happen, and we cash in over 8 runs. But again, I originally liked the Cubs. I just can't get myself to back Mr. Fraud out here, Marcus Stroman. And you guys know that's all that Marcus Stroman needed to hear, right? Because he definitely watches. But, all I needed to say was that, to absolute jinx him and reverse jinx him, and all of a sudden he goes out there and is a stud, because we know that's happened before. All right, we have Houston taking on Cleveland. Syndergaard getting the rock for the Guardians here in this one. Interesting. Everything we heard, the dude is very excited to play for another team. He didn't really love, I guess, his time. He was saying, like, there's too many pitchers in the kitchen or something like that, right? So he's excited for the fresh start. And I do think that, we might give him a chance here. This is just a lean, but I can't really consider Houston for -190. This Guardians team has not been playing bad baseball. They've won 6 of their last 10 games. The competition hasn't really been all that crazy. But for Houston, they've won 6 of the last 10 as well. And they played Oakland in the mix and have 3 wins against Oakland. So I'm not really going to give Houston all that much credit either, even though they did take 2 of 3 against Texas. They competed with Tampa Bay, right? But give me Syndergaard and the Guardians. Syndergaardians? Give me the Syndergaardians. Are you kidding me? +160 on the money line right now. Let's go. We might as well cash it, right? +160 on the money line here for the Syndergaardians. Then in terms of a total, looking at 9 runs. If Syndergaard goes out there and pitches well, he is going up against JP France, who has been pitching well. The team is 5-0 in his last 5. He's got a 1.2 ERA, so I'll give credit where it is. He's got a 1.2 whip as well. So I'm going to lean towards the under, but I don't really like the total in this game, over or under, so I'm probably sticking away from it. But now that I came up with that little, or maybe it's already been a thing, but to me, now that I said it out loud, the Syndergaardians, might have to sprinkle on that. But, always a chance to fade me, but yeah, I just don't think that there's much of a play here for the Astros at -190 anyway. So it's Guardians or pass, and I might be leaning towards the Guardians now even more because Syndergaard's on the mound, and the last part of his name sounds like the first part of the team name. Syndergaardians, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. All right, Rockies taking on the Padres. This is a weird one because I don't think I normally lean towards the Rockies in this spot, but for plus 185 odds, going up against Seth Lugo, who isn't trending in the right direction necessarily, yet Austin Gomber is. So Lugo hasn't been pitching bad. He just, I wouldn't necessarily say that he's been a stud as of late. Their offense has really been what's been scoring or what's been helping them out, and they're getting wins in which they're scoring 5 to 7 runs. But Gomber's been pitching well as of late. In his last 5 starts here, 2 flat ERA. He's actually looking at a 1.1 whip over his last 3, so I'm not getting too confident here with the Rockies, but I do lean towards the Rockies just because I don't think that this Lugo-led Padres team is worth minus 205. Like, it's way too much of a price tag. So when I saw that, it was kind of Rockies or nothing for me, so obviously I'm going to try and find the silver linings with the Rockies. I don't think it becomes a final play because how trustworthy can the Rockies be in that spot? In terms of a total, 11.5. So, all right. Colorado had, 2 games go over against the A's, and I told you guys, these 2 teams still stink. No chance they do it again, right? 2-0 yesterday. Tell that to the altitude truth that's out there. Like 2-0, really? How much does the altitude matter, huh? How much does the altitude matter? But the Padres, like I said, that offense has been there, so I want to go under because that's kind of a thing on this channel where I just don't believe in the altitude, at least because Colorado is a bad team. But this Padres offense, if they're scoring 7 runs against Texas in California here, I have to imagine that 7 can turn into 11 at least over in Colorado. But like I said, I lean towards Colorado. I don't trust this. So what do I think? The Padres are going to score double digits and Colorado's going to score 12? Probably not. So this game just kind of has me in a nah mindset. But I lean towards Colorado for the value, plus 180. And then in terms of what I'm looking at from a total, over, but don't really love that. And I can't believe I'm saying it as it comes out my mouth. All right, Seattle taking on Boston here. The Red Sox underdogs on the road, plus 120. Seattle minus 135 as they have George Kirby on the hump here. Going up against Nick Pivetta, who it's been a while since his last start. He has been pitching fairly well out of the bullpen for what that is worth. But yeah, has his first start here as he goes up against George Kirby. I kind of went back and forth in this because I think there's some value on the Red Sox here for plus 120, but 2 losses in a row against San Francisco. What have I been telling you guys on the daily that the Red Sox, they're riding along in the wagon. Boom, back left tire goes out. Boom, back right tire goes out. Now they got 2 tires left. When the wheels fall off, and it's looking like that's happening. So I guess I do truthfully lean towards the better pitcher and a team that, just took 2 of 3 against the Cardinals, took 2 of 3 against Minnesota before that, playing decent base players. So give me Seattle on the money line, minus 135. And then in terms of a total, it's way down there at 7.5. If you could still get it at 8, go for it, because I do like the under here. Both these bullpens surprisingly have been pitching well, and I say surprisingly because this Red Sox bullpen is nothing. Their pitching is really nothing, right? But guys have been stepping up. Last 3 games, your Red Sox bullpen 2.75 ERA, and then for the bullpen for the Mariners, who have been fairly consistent all year, right? 2.47 ERA. So give me the under 7.5. Hopefully we can see games like we've seen these 2 teams trending as of late. Last series for Boston against San Francisco, 3-2, 3-2, 3-4, right? Seattle, we're looking at a 5-2, still under, a 4-7, still under, and then a 4-0. So we have 2 of these teams coming off of series in which they did not hit over this mark. So give me the under as well, even though it is such a low number. All right, San Fran taking on Arizona. We just kind of talked about it. Arizona coming off of losing 2 of 3 against against Boston, against Seattle. This is tough because the 2 teams we just talked about played the 2 teams we're talking about now. But Arizona coming off losing 2 of 3 against Seattle. San Francisco coming off of winning 2 of 3 against Boston. But we don't have a line or a total yet. Nothing has come out because we do not know who's pitching for San Francisco. For what it's worth, Ryan Nelson's pitching for Arizona here. I'm probably going to end up leaning towards Arizona, I guess, but obviously you want to fill in some of these blanks here before we do that. So keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we do end up rolling with anything. And that is all we're gonna bring to you guys today. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you go ahead and smash that like button and hit that subscribe button as well. Let me know those ride of the days in the comments. And you know what? If you're still watching, drop 24 in the comments. We snuck that in right at the end of the video. So if you are still watching, make sure to drop 24. And let's go ahead and close out July strong. Probably, I guess, after last night, even if we have a losing night tonight, which we're not going to do, we'd still have a profitable July, which is a great place to be in heading into the last day. But let's make it even better. Let's make good, turn it into great, and let's do this damn thing. So guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.